Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. A very good day to you fellas off the back of another crazy European week. Well, at least it was for the Champions League, not so much for the Europa League and the Conference League. But I just want your thoughts. I asked the Premier League boys about this as well. I mean, 3.71 goals per game. It's over a goal and a half higher the average in Serie A. It's over every single major league in Europe, Steve. I mean, I don't know why we're seeing so many goals in the Champions League. Any theories?
Yeah, because the teams have to go for it. They want to rack up the goal difference. It's not like the old days where we had 4-team groups where there was a bottom seed in each one, and it didn't really matter so much with. I think it was actually head-to-head, wasn't it, that separated the groups? I'm not sure, but yeah. But now, with the goal difference being a factor, if you're 2-0 up and in control, you might as well rack up the score. And these teams want to get in the top 8 because it's not so much about a competitive advantage. It's about avoiding 2 more games in in February. The workload of players is obviously well theorized these days, and the teams will want to avoid the extra games whenever they can. So, and also there's a lot more mismatches, isn't there? Let's be honest, there is quite a big golfing class between certain matchups. So that would be my theory, Dan. It's been last year, we weren't sure, were we? There weren't many draws and we're thinking it might be an outlier. But it's quite clear those trends now for the new group format for the Champions League. You don't want to be an unders better, do you? Like I found out to my cost in Copenhagen, Dortmund on Tuesday night.
Oh, we've all been on the wrong side of the trends, I can tell you that much. I think Steve has come out with some good points, and one that I didn't think of, James, is the fact that, we talk about, but there's so many more big games now. That's true, but as Steve has just pointed out, that means there's got to be a few more mismatches as well. You know, there's always the other side of the coin here. I mean, Liga is just over 3 at the minute, but it was this time last season as well. It's actually slightly down year on year after match day 8. Any sort of theories regarding Champions League versus domestic leagues?
Yeah, I think the point Steve makes about trying to get in the top 8 is absolutely true. Some of the media in Europe have alluded to that. PSG, who ended up winning the Champions League last year, were one of the sides that had to go through the playoffs to get there. They're definitely focused on trying to get in the top 8 to lighten that workload, as Steve says. So that's definitely a factor. And there are mismatches as well. And something I've mentioned before is that, we're dealing with technically the best teams in Europe here. And I think these days, pretty much the last 5 or 10 years, technical football in Europe tends to lead to goals because of the way the game has gone and challenges being punished more harshly, penalties being given for VAR and all the rest of it. So that just pushes up the goal average a little bit as well. Having said all of that, the number of goals is, for me, still quite surprising because it is clear above the domestic leads at the moment in terms of goals per match.
Yeah, it's above the Conference League and the Europa League as well, incidentally. The Europa League is 2.56, Conference League is 2.37. It's just the best of the best, like scoring goals. Speaking of the best, profit and loss on screen for you, for the boys. This is how we are through 8 weeks of European football. It will improve over the course of the season, I will guarantee you that. Plenty to discuss over the course of this weekend, some smart plays coming your way. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. Get your comments in on the YouTube chat. As well, make sure you subscribe and like. We're going to kick off with a big game of the weekend across Europe, no doubt about that. It's Real Madrid against Barcelona. It's El Clasico. It is Sunday, 11:15 Eastern. And it's a huge game, Steve, as we know. It always is. It's the 191st La Liga meeting, 262nd in all competitions. I was trying to look for some sort of trends here, maybe to hang my hat on. Last 10 league meetings, only 3 winning favourites. Only 2 minus money favourites have won from 4 minus money jollies. Obviously, Real Madrid are favourites plus 110. They might go minus money come kickoff. Probably won't. Haven't had a draw in the last 10 in the league. And the constants, well, over 2.5 goals has hit in the last 10, but it's minus 345. Steve, your general thoughts on El Clasico, Real Madrid, Barcelona. What do you think? Who's going to win?
Well, I think it's going to be an absolutely cracking game, to be honest. I'll talk about the pick that I've got on the Betting Weekly Insider this week, which is over 3.5 goals. I just think it's a no-brainer after... I mean, the meetings last season were through the roof, weren't they, for goals? Barcelona did a job on Real Madrid, to be fair. Real Madrid needed a response to this. I think they've lost their last, 4 meetings against Barcelona in all comps, which that's not acceptable for any Real Madrid fan or player. But, I mean, I wasn't impressed with how Real Madrid performed against Atletico Madrid recently. Now, this is a similar sort of game in terms of magnitude. So what has Xabi Alonso learnt from that one? Well, let's see. But even if Xabi Alonso is trying to get the game down to play more controlled and more tight, I'm not sure that's going to work either, because Barcelona are just, I mean, they're going to want the game to be really, really open. And it's not a style clash, because Real Madrid have got plenty of goals in them as well. But this Barcelona team over the last, year and a half has been remarkable for goals, been remarkable for, you want to watch their fixtures. Barcelona are the number one team to watch in Europe because you're going to be entertained. You're not going to get a 0-0 draw when you're watching Barcelona. So, I mean, I don't know who's going to win it. I mean, I can't believe that Real Madrid would lose 5 in a row to Barcelona. But based on last year, then I think Barcelona look quite a big price here, actually.
Don't they?
I'm not saying I'd back them, but I mean, you can get big plus money, can't you? Here, plus 220 on the Barcelona win, a team that are used to beating Real Madrid recently. I mean, I think the goals line is the more sensible play. At minus 137 for over 3.5 goals. Someone put up in the comments in the midweek Champions League live shows, don't overthink things sometimes in soccer, and I think this is one of them. We don't need to overthink it. The goal line might look high, it's legitimately 3.75, isn't it? But with the sheer amount of attacking talent on the field would surely suggest that the goals will flow again. So in that case, I can't predict Barcelona winning 5 in a row. I'm going to go with the draw. I'm going to say a 2-2 draw, and that might be being conservative, Dan. But I do like the goals for sure.
Draw's a massive price. It's plus 300. I've just looked at the latest prices. You're right. I mean, they're even money now, Real Madrid. I tagged them as plus 110. They're evens as we speak. They could go minus money. Who knows? Barcelona plus 220. Look, a big price here. I mean, they both like to score. They both can't defend. Expected goals against over 10 the pair. So it's chaotic. It's crazy. There's always goals. I don't know how much is going to change in terms of team news. We know that Lewandowski's out. Rafinha is questionable. I think Gavi's out. Obviously, Dani Olmo as well for Barcelona. For Real Madrid, I think the vast majority are in that we know are going to be. And I know Alaba's been out for a while, and Rudiger likewise. Housen is questionable. Is Rashford going to start? Potentially. I don't think there's going to be too much in terms of team news to really swing the prices one way or the other. I am a little bit surprised that Real Madrid are getting bet here, James. They're even money. What are your sort of general sort of match thoughts and overs and unders? I mean, Steve says over 3.5. It seems short, but I mean, why would you go anywhere else? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Steve. Well, Steve has said there's a huge amount of attacking talent on the pitch, which is true. There's a dearth of defensive talent on the pitch for me. That sounds slightly disrespectful, but I don't think either team has defended especially well. Barcelona have conceded a lot of goals. Real Madrid have kept clean sheets, but the only game against a comparable side in La Liga was the Atletico Madrid game. They conceded 5. So I don't see any reason why Real Madrid would be the mean defensive machine they've been against some of the division's lower ranking sides in this match, because they're going to face the best attack here that they'll face all season. So I think goals is the way to play. I think looking at the money line prices, the draw is the absolute standout for me, a massive outsider of 3 at plus 290. I think Real Madrid will probably win it, but I think in terms of the prices, the draw is a value play there because it's so much bigger than Barcelona to win the game. And I think probably a draw is more likely than Barcelona winning. I wouldn't get involved in the outcome of the game. I agree with Steve. I think if you're looking for a main pick on the match, the goals offers better value. And I've got my hot dog play on the game, Dan. Obviously, with the hot dog, we're looking for a price of plus 200 and over. For me, there's a really good play on this game in the props markets. It's on Real Madrid to have over 17.5 shots on goal. That's shots on goal, not shots on target in the match, which is available at a price of plus 220. Now, over 17.5 shots on target. That sounds massive. You're looking for Real Madrid to have a minimum of 18 attempts on goal. But actually, I think one of the clearest patterns of play from Real Madrid under Xabi Alonso this season has been firing in shots, headers from all angles and all distances. They have clearly been told by Xabi Alonso to shoot more, and it's come through in the stats. And actually, although over 17.5 shots on goal sounds really big, that would have paid out for you in 5 of Real Madrid's 9 Liga games so far. It would also have paid out for you in their midweek Champions League game when they only scored once against Juventus, but they had something like 24 attempts on goal. So this is a clear trend with Real Madrid at the moment under Xabi Alonso. They are going for it from all sorts of distances and angles. The midfielders are getting involved. The fullbacks are getting forward and getting involved. So I think in what I think will be a really open game against Barcelona, you've got a pretty good chance of this paying out. So it's my main pick on the game. As I say, Steve, I agree with on the goals. I think it's a smart way to play if you're looking for prices, maybe nearer even money or something like that. But as a long shot, I think over 17.5 shots from Real Madrid at plus 220 is definitely worth a look.
Now, I've just got to pull the curtain back a little bit here. Last week, Steve was playing by the rules. And James, because he's such a nice man, he's also playing by the rules. Because, James, explain why.
Yeah, well, my pick on this game was actually over 16.5 shots.
And it was hot dog territory, wasn't it, at the time?
And it was hot dog territory, yeah. It was available at plus 215 and plus 220 at various points earlier in the week. Over 16.5 shots on goal from Real Madrid has now come all the way into plus 165. So it's shortened a great deal. I think maybe people out there have been wise to this earlier in the week, or maybe the market makers have looked at it and thought, hang on a minute, Real Madrid are having lots of shots on goal. So I've had to up it by 1 shot, which is fair enough. We're trying to keep it consistent with the hot dog picks, plus 200 or over with the prices. Let's see what happens. But I'm kind of happy to do it because, as I say, they've often broken way through this. You know, Real Madrid have had 26 shots on goal in a game, 23, 24. So often really, really high. We'd obviously like to have fewer shots if we can, and then we've got more on our side. But I think over 17.5, you're still going to get a good run for your money.
Just a couple of other leans as well from you, James, that you highlighted in our WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Real Madrid to win it and you're looking at the price and think actually plus 110 is fairly short, have a look at Real Madrid to win and both teams to score yes, because it's available at plus 180. That way you obviously get most of the scorelines on side. You know, if Real Madrid were to win to 0, you'll miss out, but are they really going to win to 0 against Barcelona? So have a look at that if you fancy Real Madrid. And Barcelona over 1.5 team goals, I think is interesting at minus 103. Would not surprise me in the least if Barcelona get a couple of goals here. So if you're more inclined to look at the away side, then but you're not maybe sure what the outcome of the game will be, have a look at Barcelona there to get a couple of goals in the game.
Lots of different ways to get involved in El Clasico. Just one last one to Steve before we move on. Just with the anytime goal scorer market, Steve, just going to throw this one at you. You know, Mbappe's minus 165. Everybody else is over 2-1. Vinny Jr. plus 210, Bellingham plus 280, Lamine Yamal plus 205. Is there any value in the anytime goal scorer there, do you think? Just quickly, who might star, do you think? He might be a little bit of value. I was just amazed that we all think there's going to be goals, yet there's only one player really short for the anytime goal scorer list.
Do you know what? That's a really good point. I've only just noticed this. There would be definitely value. I mean, Yamal plus 175, and then you're looking at Vinicius Jr. plus 210. I mean, goodness me, you're absolutely right. If you pick your player that you like to score, I mean, Mbappe at minus 165, that might be automatic for several bettors anyway. So yeah, the goal line is really high. It's nearly 3.754, isn't it? So I'm amazed that there's only one player that's shorter than 2-1.
Yeah, as you say, Lamine Yamal. I think, Lamine has been back. I just think it's one of those odd anomalies. Wow. If they think there's going to be goals, then surely there's... And there's so many goal scorers, and it's just a game that goes wild. Let us know who you're betting for El Clasico. Let us know the best overs play or unders play. If you're getting a little bit sort of uncomfortable with your bets or anytime goal scorer, let us know. Some interesting thoughts there from the boys. And James, of course, with his hot dog, 17.5 attempts at goal from Real Madrid. We need more than 17.5. Seems like a big number, but the stats bear it out, and it's a big price. Let's quickly talk about the big Italian game this weekend, Steve. We've got Napoli-Inter, which is midday Saturday. Inter are the favourites, plus 135. It's third versus second. It's the last two Scudetto winners here. They're only separated by goal difference here. But Napoli in a little bit of a funk, maybe, at the minute after that poor result in midweek in the Champions League. What's your thoughts?
Well, for me, this is going to be a tight game. I don't think that much is going to separate the two teams. In my personal opinion, Inter are now at the moment the best team in Serie A, and the power ratings that we have on the Insider show that. I think I've been quite impressed with what they've done of late. They have won something like 6 in a row, most of them to 0. They've only conceded 2 goals since the loss at Juventus 4-3, and one of those was a last-minute consolation against Cremonense, who had about 1 shot in the game. And yes, I was on win to 0 that day. So I'm not bitter. But they've look. I watched them against Royal Saint-Gilloise in midweek, and it was an impressive performance offensively. Scored 4 goals. They could have scored 5 or 6 more. But I think in this sort of game, both managers would take a point right now. This is Conte against Kivu, and I just feel like the natural instincts of both will be to don't lose. I mean, Napoli have had a terrible start since the international break, haven't they? They lost at Torino 1-0 last week, and then what on earth went wrong against PSV? 6-2 defeat. I mean, Conte on the back of conceding 6 goals, that screams to me defence. He's going to think, that is not happening again. We are going to be more cautious than normal. So, a lot of Napoli, 5 of the last 6 games have gone over 2.5 goals. But ultimately, I think I've got to go with the under 2.25 goal line here at minus 103. And I don't think Inter will lose the fixture. So a strong lean for me on the under.
Yeah, I like Inter, but I think you're right. I don't think they'll lose. I was hoping the prices might be a little bit tight to get a bit of draw, no bet, but I don't know. James, your brief thoughts on this one? I mean, Napoli are struggling from an attacking standpoint. Haaland didn't play midweek, I don't think. Did he look probably going to be lone striker again? He was sent off in the Champions League for something a bit odd, but he'll start here. I'm not quite sure De Bruyne and McTominay is working in midfield for Napoli. What's your thoughts on this one?
I agree with that. I'm backing away from Napoli for a while. I backed them last weekend. It was my 1-unit play. Didn't work. They played poorly. Then they had that 6-2 defeat in midweek, and I thought Antonio Conte's comments after that game in midweek were interesting because he almost said it was kind of coming, really. I'm paraphrasing, but it summed up the sense that things aren't okay there. I agree about the midfield. I think De Bruyne has done pretty well individually, but it's had knock-on impact on McTominay. I know he scored in midweek, but they've changed things around. And defensively, I've alluded before to the fact they've changed their centre-back partnership a lot this season, and I don't think that was the only reason they lost so heavily in midweek, but there's just a sense of the team being unsettled at the moment, and maybe missing Lukaku a bit more than we thought, because I don't think Lorenzo Luca's been particularly impressive. So I think after that midweek defeat, it will be all about defence for Antonio Conte. I think he'd take a 0-0 draw now if he could, and just avoid a humiliating and potentially very damaging points-wise defeat to Inter, who are at the moment outright title favourites. So for me, it's a lean, but under 2.5 goals, I think at minus 132 would be the way to play this, because I tend to agree with Steve. I think even though Inter are flying, and they'll have one eye on winning, I think they'd also just say, you know, a point away from home to maybe still our main title rivals would be a good result. So fairly cagey stuff, I expect, and I think unders would be the smart play.
2 massive games in Europe, Clasico and Napoli against Inter. We go to France next because we've got the boys' 2-unit plays coming up, and indeed Steve's hot dog as well, and we got a lean as well, so a little bit of French flair for you. Next up, let's get Steve's 2U. We go Lens Marseille, which is 3:05 Saturday Eastern. Marseille plus 130, Marseille plus 550 for the title. Steve, your boy's going to win the title. Top scorers in Liga. What more do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? There is certainly an excitement around Marseille at the moment. Look, PSG, it's all the pressure's on them. They are the favourites. But if they were to slip up, it would be nice if someone behind them was ready to pounce. And they have made a couple of slip-ups this season so far, PSG. So, long way to go. I still don't see beyond the Parisien. But look, Marseille here, I like what I'm seeing from them, certainly offensively. My 2-unit play for the week is over 2.75 goals at minus 118. Now, I think this could be a really good game. I think this could be maybe a classic. actually. If you look at the underlying metrics, these two, Marseille actually have the best XG in the league, but better than PSG, 5 better than PSG, which is saying something. Lens have the 4th best expected goals. They've underachieved that mark. They always underachieve that mark. When was the last time that Lens overachieved their expected goals? Seriously, that's a really good question, isn't it? Never, probably, since the metrics came in. The point is they're creating a lot of chances, and I think they're quite a watchable team this year, Lens, I must say. Yeah. Quite a lot of matches have gone over the 2.5 goal mark. And I just believe the way that both managers play, we're going to get a shootout. Simple as that. And there's not much else that points in a different direction. Marseille are confident in the league, 5 wins in a row. Mason Greenwood looks brilliant. I think Greenwood looks in superb touch right now. And, I actually backed him to score or assist against Sporting in midweek, and I felt a bit unlucky because of the red card, which was pointless. That's the only problem Marseille have, isn't it, this season, the red cards. But Greenwood in the anytime scorer market here would be someone that I'd be looking towards, that's for sure. But it's just, I'm just keeping it simple here. I mean, the goal line, you could just take straight over 2.5 goals at, I think, minus 161. But I've gone a notch higher to over 2.75 here at minus 118, because I've just got the feeling Lens have only had one match go over 3.5 this season, but I think this one goes significantly over the goal line. Actually, we could get a wild encounter, a 3-2 win maybe for either team. But I think Marseille's firepower will be too much. I think Marseille get the win, but it's the goals that I fancy the most for the 2-unit play here. Over 2.75 again on the Asian goal line at minus 180.
Good stuff. And James, your 2U play, we stay in France Saturday, 11 a.m. Brest against Paris Saint-Germain. PSG, incidentally, minus 500 for the title, still very short. You're looking for goals as well here. Plenty of the big hitters, of course, back now for PSG.
Yeah, 2-unit play on this game is on over 3 goals at minus 139. So the way I looked at it was, you can only lose with this pick if the game has no goals, 1 goal or 2 goals. And I think that's very, very unlikely based on how both teams are playing. So, but to start with PSG, yeah, some of the big hitters are back. Dembele and Doué returned from injury in the Champions League and Bayer Leverkusen in midweek. Both got on the score sheet. Brilliant goals from Dembele and Doué, sorry, I should say. Will they start here? Probably won't start, but I think we'll probably see them, especially Dembele off the bench as he was in midweek. So just gives them great options in attack. They were scoring well anyway while those guys were out because they've got great depth with Kvaratskhelia and Barcola and the midfielders contributing. I think PSG will go for this after that midweek win. Even if they rotate, there's goals in the team. And, it's not just the forwards, is it? We saw Nuno Mendes scoring in midweek as well. So plenty of form from them. And I think playing against Brest is almost the ideal match to give their fit again attacking players some game time, because defensively Brest have been really poor this season. You get chances against them, whoever you are, home or away. They drew 3-3 against Lorient last weekend. They looked like they were going to win it, having gone behind early on, then they conceded. Very typical of what we've seen from them this season. It was their second 3-3 draw of the season. 4 of their 8 games have gone over 3.5 goals. And the manager has said repeatedly the defenders are not playing well enough, but he seems at a loss actually to make them defensively any better. I'm just not sure they've got the personnel really, especially through the heart of the defence, to shut out sort of average teams in League One, let alone the best team in League One, which is what they're facing this weekend. So having said all of that, they're pretty good at the other end. They've got a tall striker in Ludwig Ajorc who causes defences problems, and a good winger in Roman Del Castillo. They're the 2 main danger men for Brest, and they've both been in good form. So wouldn't be surprised at all to see Brest contribute to the goals. They'll create chances, and they're very positive. Whoever they play, Brest are really positive. They're a fearless side in the way they go about it. So I think they'll take the game to PSG and have a go at it. So I think it's going to be open. I think it's going to be entertaining. Chances for both teams. As I say, I think it's very unlikely we won't get at least 3 goals in the game. If you get 3 goals in the game with this pick, you'll get your stakes back. If you get 4 or more, then you'll have a winning play. So it's my 2-unit play. It's over 3 goals, and it's available at minus 139.
Let's get Steve's hot dog next. 12:15 Sunday in Ligue Rennes against Nice. Rennes are the favourites plus 112. They're both locked on 11 points in Ligue. Rennes are draw specialists. They only had 2 draws last season, which was a league low. They've got 5 this season, which is a league high. Champions League, are you listening? This is how you do regression. Why didn't this happen last season for me? Steve, what's your hot dog?
Yeah.
Well, interesting game. I thought about having my 2-unit pick on this game. I thought about having the 1-unit pick on the game. And I've eventually gone with the hot dog. And the hot dog I'm going with is -1 Asian handicap on Rennes at +210. Now, I've got to be honest, if this was a normal week of soccer, I would not be betting on this game. But this is one of my favourite scenarios. I love opposing teams away from home who have just been away from home on a Thursday night. And I especially love opposing teams who played with 10 men for the entire second half on a Thursday night. And that's what happened to Nice. They lost against Celta Vigo away, and they got absolutely mullered in the second half with 10 men. 20 shots Celta Vigo had in one half against them. So they came under a lot of fire. And this is a great situational spot for Rennes. We talked at the start of the season why we actually thought Rennes might have a good year in Liga. And one of the reasons is they're not in Europe. These are the weeks where they've got to cash in and take advantage. Now, I've got to be honest, on the field, they have been pretty bang average. In fact, they have the 4th worst expected points in the league. Both teams are in the bottom 8 for expected points, so we haven't seen the best of them yet. Maybe that will come in time. And this might be the sort of the pick-me-up that Rennes need, because they've got a perfect fixture, a chance, a situational spot to take advantage of Nice. The other problem with Nice is how many clean sheets have Nice had this season, guys? James might know it off the top of his head. What are you saying, Dan?
2.
None.
1. 1 clean sheet.
Yeah,
and that was at home to Nantes, who are the lowest scoring team in the division apart from Angers. So, this is a big problem for Nice. James flagged it up on the Thursday show we did, actually, talking about the Celta Vigo match. And they concede far too many goals. So, I mean, Rennes, the one thing they do have in them, they have scored a few goals. Their expected goals isn't that high, but one of it is kind of distorted because the game where they had 9 men, they racked up 0.05 xG. So I think it's a sort of game. If Rennes win the game, they might just win it by a few goals, So I think that's why it's worth taking the -1 Asian handicap here at +210. If they win by 1 goal, it's just going to be a push. The 2-unit play I would have gone on the game would have been -1/4 ball on the handicap. And the 1-unit play would have been moneyline at +112. So I had loads of options for the fixture. And I've decided in the end to go with the hot dog. Had to be a bit more creative this week, Dan, because Sevilla are not playing. So that's my 1-unit normal pick. Friday night they're playing. So I had to think of something different for once. But yeah, in this territory, I think Rennes can get the win. I mean, I'm not overly convinced by them. It's more of a fade of Nice, if I'm being honest.
Good stuff. That's Rennes -1 on the Asian line, +210. We're going to get James 1U play, which is Sunday 3:45. Watch the kickoff times on Sundays. We get this anomaly of a week between Europe and the States. Lyon +110, Strasbourg +230. Both of these two teams, James, have featured in European football in midweek. Strasbourg have been impressive. What's the 1U?
Yeah, the 1-unit play is Strasbourg Tino Bet, available at -148. Because I think the prices are wrong on this game, Dan. It's all about the price, really. Lyon, very clear favourites at +110, Strasbourg +230. I looked at that and I just thought, you know what? I think Lyon's too short, because they both played on Thursday night, as you say. And in a way, that means it's the same for both teams in terms of prep for the game. But if you look at the teams, I don't actually think it is. Strasbourg have got a bigger squad. They rotated far more heavily for their Thursday night match than Lyon did. They dropped a lot of players who normally start. So I think they're actually going to be fresher than Lyon in this match. Lyon haven't got the squad size to rotate. They played fairly close to their best starting 11 in that Thursday night game. I think that will pay against Lyon late on, maybe in this game, because Strasbourg are probably going to bring back their big hitters who started that game on the bench and just have a little bit more energy. So I think in terms of the preparation, if you look at the fixtures, you'll think, well, it's the same for both teams. But I think if you draw down a bit deeper, it's not. And then against that, yeah, I think Strasbourg have been the better side of the two this season anyway. Not by a huge amount, but I think they have. They're slightly above Lyon in the league table. and they've played, for me, slightly better football over the 12 or so matches they've played so far. I think Strasbourg have lost only 2 out of 12. I would argue they've only been outplayed once in those 12 games, and that was when they faced Marseille, which was pretty close anyway for most of the game, and that's against the second best team in France. So the point there being, Strasbourg are a match for pretty much anybody other than Marseille and PSG in Ligue 1, and they drew last weekend against PSG. So there's lots of reasons, I think, why Strasbourg will be really competitive here. You're always at the mercy of, refereeing decision going against you or something like that. But I think looking at how the two teams have played and their detailed team news for this match, I think that price of 110 on Lyon, the more I looked at it, I think it's just too short, and actually the value here lies with Strasbourg. So it's my 1 unit play. It's Strasbourg tie no bet, and that's available at minus 148.
And quickly, just to wrap up Liga, you've got a lean for us, James, in the Lille-Metz game.
Yes, and again, this sort of feeds into what happened on Thursday night. The lean is on Lille minus 1.25 on the Asian handicap at minus 129. So you need Lille to win by 2 goals here for this to cash. I think people will have watched Lille and wonder what happened on Thursday night. They lost 4-3 at home to PAOK in Europe. They were 3-0 down at half-time in that game, which was a huge shock. Partly down to rotation. I don't think completely down to it, but then they did bring people on in the second half and they got a lot better. They won the second half convincingly. So I just think that will spur Lille into life here. They'll want to make up for that at home. They'll put out some of the players that they rotated onto the bench in that game. And Metz have been really terrible this season. They're bottom of the table. They've yet to win. They've already lost 4 times by 3 or more goals. So there's plenty of evidence that when Metz lose, they lose big. I think it's a great chance here for Lille to get a comfortable win. It's just a lean, but I think Lille to win by a couple of games, there's a very good chance of that happening.
One more official play to come from Steve next. It's in Italy, but plenty more on the show after that. We go Torino, Genoa, Steve, for your 1U play. Sunday, 7:30 a.m. This one. Torino did us last week with their win at Napoli. Can they follow it up with a good performance against Genoa? And this is it with betting. A team does you dirty one week, but it doesn't matter. You're on the train the following week, Steve.
I think they can follow up that victory with another one. If we look at that match in isolation last week, they probably were lucky to get the 3 points. But I think it's fair to say they played really well for the first hour. Certainly the first half, they limited Napoli reasonably well. The bet I'm going with for official 1 unit play is Torino minus 0.25 on the Asian handicap, and this is at minus 109. And I just think their odds are too big to win this game. You can get money line, I think, plus 225 on them. Take the minus a quarter ball handicap, and you will not lose you'll only lose half your stake if it ends in a draw. And you've got to cover for a draw. This is Serie A. There's a lot of unders this season. When Genoa are playing a 0-0, it's always a possibility, just like they did last week. And, they're still winless. There's 4 teams still winless in Serie A, by the way, and Genoa are one of them. And, if you look at the expected points table, they're the second biggest underachieving side. They're the most underachieving side in front of goal on the XG. But I feel like there could be that sort of team under Patrick Vieira. We mentioned about him before, about his sort of life cycle in management, and I feel like he's coming towards the end of his tenure here at Genoa. I've seen quite a few fans suggest that he's not offering enough. He's playing players out of position. He has just kind of one game plan, and it's not working. It's not. Last week they should have won. They missed a late penalty. That's the sort of thing that's going on for Genoa at the minute. Nothing is going their way. The manager doesn't feel really secure right now, and we've got a Torino team who should be confident after beating Napoli. And let's just not forget, they also drew against Lazio. They're suddenly finding a bit of form. They had a decent cup win as well. Their 3 wins this season in all competitions have been 1-0, and I think that's the most likely scoreline again. Get a goal, and that's usually enough, isn't it, to beat Genoa these days, because they just don't have enough goals in them themselves. At the worst case scenario, you're thinking a draw. Genoa don't look like winning a game right now. They're low in confidence. So I had to move a few units around, actually, to be able to make this an official play. I couldn't help myself. I just had to get involved before the Vieira era ended ends in Genoa. I think it will end soon. I think it will end soon. I want to get a bit more profit out of the bag because they have been quite profitable for us, haven't they, under his tenure? I want to get a bit more out of it before he potentially gets sacked. So that's my thinking here.
All right.
James is finding this very
one.
What do you think, James? Am I gonna cash it? Is Vieira on his last legs?
Well, that I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I think, generally, listen, I'm going to talk in a second about the trend in Serie A because it's all about low goals at the moment. So it kind of suits Patrick Vieira. They may, in a way, be better sticking with him because it seems to the way the division's going at the moment.
Steve likes Torino minus a quarter ball on the edge of the line, minus 109 against Genoa. Just to circle back to James' one you played, just a bit of clarification, James, on that Lyon-Strasbourg game. Yes,
so I mistakenly said Tino bet on that game at minus 148. It's not a Tino bet pick on Strasbourg. It's Strasbourg double chance at minus 148. What that means is, with a double chance, if Strasbourg win or the game ends in a draw, you get paid out at minus 148. Strasbourg Tino bets is available at much bigger odds. That would mean that if the game is a draw, you get your stakes back. So just to clarify, the 1 unit play is... Hang on, Dan, have I said it wrong again?
No, you've got it spot on.
Have I?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Double chance.
Strasbourg double chance. So just to be clear, and I'll make my notes better next week. Just to be clear, it's Strasbourg double chance. So you have 2 out of the 3 outcomes on your side. If Strasbourg win, you get paid out. And if the game ends in a draw, you get paid out. That's the 1 unit play. And it's available at minus 148.
There we go. Just clarification on that. There was a little bit of a typo, a little bit of gremlin in the system, as they say. Just on Serie A football, you mentioned it right at the top, James, something you noticed last weekend.
Yeah, it was a very low-scoring weekend across all the teams, last weekend. A lot of talk about Genoa and 1 or 2 other teams who've been quite negative, but I think we only had 11 goals across the 10 games, which is incredibly low. And has been a talking point. And a lot of people have watched 1 or 2 of those games. I know a lot of people in the comments are big followers of certain teams in Serie A. A couple of things have come through in the media, certainly. One of them being that a lot of the teams down near the bottom of the table seem to be quite defensive. We don't appear at the moment to have any of the sides who are threatened by relegation playing particularly expansively or trying to score their way out of trouble. And quite a lot of references in the media this week to refereeing decisions. Games have been quite stop-start so far, which has broken up the rhythm. Whether that will change, we'll have to wait and see. So it's just something for people to keep an eye on. Again, it may change. The average number of goals is really low at the moment in Serie A. Maybe it will go up a little bit, but based on what we saw last weekend, I actually thought the 11 goals in 10 games was quite representative of the way the teams played, because there was a lot of defensive football and not much good attacking football. So at the moment, it's something to keep an eye on. It certainly affected the goal lines on 1 or 2 of the games this weekend. A lot of them are set around evens at over under 2 goals, which is very different to what we're seeing in some of the other top leagues.
Yeah, and just to follow up with that, if you played unders on all of the games last weekend, you had 9 winners. You made a profit of 5 units to level stakes. The average under 2.5 goal line was minus 141 for 2.5 goals last week. So be interested to see if that changes this week. And we have got a couple of leans that sort of buy into that this week with 2 games. They're both 9 o'clock on Saturday. Steve, you're first up with Udinese Lecce.
Yeah, and the one over last week, I was on the under, wasn't I? With the AC Milan. Yes, it was never a late penalty. Never a late penalty, that one. It's just typical, isn't it? But anyway, yeah, Udinese Lecce, this is an under. I'm going under 2.25 goals here. I think the goal line's too high. I expected the goal line of 2 for the game. I mean, watching Lecce fixtures is like watching paint dry. Worse than that, really. Horrible stuff. Minus 114 for under 2.25 goals looks very, very good. I mean, Udinese, not a team really we've got involved with much this year, have we? They're very inconsistent. They always have been inconsistent.
Yeah.
But what Lecce will actually dictate the game. It won't be Udinese who dictate the game. It'll be Lecce, because they're going to come here with the anti-football. They're looking for a 0-0. Very unlikely to to give many chances away, certainly in the first half. And if whoever gets a goal will just want to stay ahead. So really struggling to see how this one explodes into anything apart from a ball fest.
Bit of a journey as well, Lecce up to Udinese. Parma Como, James, for your lean on this one?
Yeah, very similar. I think it's an unders game, this. It's a lean on under 2.5 goals at minus 134, very close to my 1 unit play. 6 out of 7 games for both of these sides have gone unders so far, so that's over 80% of the combined matches. And even at home, I think against one of the better sides here, Parma are likely to be fairly defensive. Como are one of the more interesting sides, I think, in Serie A at the moment. Shout out to Steve, who tipped them last week to win at home to Juventus. They were good value for that win. They beat Juventus 2-0 and played fairly well, but I think it was fairly typical of what we might see from Como this season, and they were well organised and they definitely deserved the win, but there's not a huge number of goals in that side, so I think away from home against a defensive team will be a challenge for them. May win it, may end in a draw, but I think unders is the safe bet here because Parma, like I say, even at home to one of the division's more technically strong sides in the opposition half, they're likely to be quite defensive.
One La Liga lean to cover with Steve, and this is Rayo against Alaves, which is 9 a.m. on Saturday, Steve.
Really interesting game, and I've very nearly had the hot dog here. And this is what the hot dog would have been. Alaves on the money line at plus 295. Now, I've got to be honest, I pulled out of this one last minute because ultimately I feel like you do need some draw security, either plus a quarter of a goal or draw no bet. But I think this plus 295 might look quite big. Rayo are one of them teams, I sense it already this season. We're going to talk about them a lot. There's just something about them with potential. Goals, corners, situational spots. They're in the Conference League as well. And I'm going to pay to find out if they have a Conference League slump. They've just played away from home in Sweden, Häcken on Thursday evening, and the match went as far as the 105th minute. They actually equalised in the 103rd.
Did you see the penalty?
Well, for me, I'm not sure that was a penalty.
It wasn't a penalty. It wasn't a penalty.
No, and it got. I mean, there was like 6 yellow cards. Yeah, I mean, Häcken were furious. But actually, Häcken outplayed them, which surprised me. Real Vallecano didn't really play at their best there. I think they underestimated them a bit. There was a bit of a team change as well. Anyway, I love opposing teams who play away from home on a Thursday night, especially teams that are not used to playing in Europe. And this is Rayo's first season in Europe for God knows how many years. So I'm going to pay to find out if they have a slump. And Alaves look big enough, plus 295 here. They are an awkward team, aren't they? Like, I wouldn't want to face them.
Don't give anything away. Don't give anything away. They're brilliant at the back.
They don't concede many goals. They're a pain in the arse. Simple as that. Really, I would hate to be playing against them if I was opposition. And so I think this is the sort of game where they might just nick a 1-0 win, in which case I think you could look at corners again for Rayo. This is the sort of game for Rayo where they're going to have a lot of shots, like from distance. They're going to put a lot of pressure on. They're going to have territorial advantage. They're going to have a lot of possession, but they probably might not score, which means the corners will rack up and Alaves will hold tight for like a 1-0 win or a 0-0 draw. So I think it's worth paying to find out. Plus 295 on the money line.
Yeah.
You could have a look at the draw no bet or plus a quarter of a goal, which I know you like the look of that plus a quarter.
Yeah, no, I'm betting plus a quarter. I mean, XGA for Alaves is the best in La Liga, and I watched a bit of the Valencia game, and I think they'll be tough to break down. I'm going to bet both those plays. Not sure if we're going to bet this one from Stephen in a Bundesliga, but it's only because I can never bet Bayern. I can't bring myself to bet Bayern here. They're away at Gladbach, Steve, 9:30 Saturday. Best ever start to a Bundesliga season ever. How are we betting Bayern?
I think Bayern get a big win. Now, that doesn't exactly take Mystic Meg, does it, to predict that these days?
That's what people come for. They come for the insight.
I know they do. Yeah, I think Bayern are going to win big. Shock horror. -2 Asian handicap is available at -129. Now, I might not have got involved in this before because Mönchengladbach have been a bit of a bogey team for Bayern. But Mönchengladbach are in a mess. I don't like the direction they're going in. They need a proper manager for me. This interim coach, Eugene Polanski, he's been trying to get the top job. He just doesn't look the man for me. And he said a very strange thing in a press conference, right? He said, the task isn't easy because we know what Bayern are capable of, but Bayern don't do anything special. But what they do really well. Now,
Good luck.
that's a dangerous thing to say, because in Bundesliga terms, they have been very, very special over the last season and a bit. They're so dominant domestically. And if the Bayern players hear that, and they're going to see that comment, of course they are, I think they're going to want to put him in his box here, Eugene Polanski. And what a time. I mean, Mönchengladbach are playing horrible. I'm going to take -2. I'm going to ladder the bet here to -3 on the Asian handicap, and I'm going to go to -4, because I think Bayern could rack up a massive win, 5 or 6-0. I think there's a huge golfing class between the two teams, and Bayern love to rack up the score, don't they? This is the only lean I've got, and it's a strong one, in the Bundesliga this week. The card looks difficult, but Bayern are just, you can't oppose them right now. And I've seen nothing from Borussia Mönchengladbach that suggests they're getting close to any team at the moment. They just look really, really poor.
2 more points of order from the boys here. First up, last week we sort of persuaded each other to play the Kane, Mbappe, Haaland anytime goal scorer parlay. Are we doing it again? Kane -400, Mbappe -165, Haaland -122, City are at Villa. The parlay this week is +267. Last week it was +286. If it wins again, I'll start collating the P&L. James, are you playing the parlay?
Yeah, I'm very tempted to. Looking at the price, it's come in a bit, but not that much, has it? +267 after being +286 last week. And you're talking about P&L down. This is almost like a system bet for people to consider now, isn't it? Because at these prices, you only need it to cash 1 in every 3 times you do it, and you'll make a profit. So maybe it is a chance to look back now and see how often this would have cashed. I think so. I think the interesting thing about it, again, is just how short Harry Kane is. I mean, much shorter at -400 than the other 2 guys. Mbappe -165 and Haaland -121. Is that justified as a standalone price on Kane? I don't think it is, because some of those stats you put forward last week, Dan, showed that although he is obviously scoring stacks of goals, he's not scoring that many more than the others that their price is justified. So it's interesting, but he's worth keeping in there because he is in fantastic form. And as Steve has said, Bayern are going to win big this weekend, so you wouldn't want to drop him from it at the moment.
Of course, if you played it in the Champions League in midweek, you would have lost because Mbappe. Did Mbappe let us down for it?
Yeah.
Steve, what do you think? You playing this weekend?
Yeah, it's got to be a play. I mean, Harry Kane could get any number he wants against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And then you've got Mbappe in a match where the goal line's nearly 4, which leaves Haaland, doesn't it? And, the way Haaland's playing right now, you can't oppose him, especially the way Villa have defended this season. So I think it's a bit of a no-brainer again. I think the parlay cashes. I know a lot of people tailed this last week, by the way. We had a lot in the comments about it. We might have started something here. Because
shout out to Stephen. I think Stephen put Voltemada in as well and boosted it up even more.
I think it's a bet.
It's a bet until it loses. Monday Night Football, Betis against Atleti. Thought I'd squeeze this one in before we depart for the weekend. Atleti +115. James, they're going to be hurting after that 4-0 drubbing at the hands of Arsenal, aren't they, in the Champions League? I mean, but Betis are good, and I'm tempted by a +220 on Betis, or maybe a draw no bet or a double chance. What do you think here for the Monday night game? Atleti need something, but I'm not quite sure they're going to get it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Atletico Madrid at +115 away from home to a side who are very difficult to beat is too short. I wouldn't be taking them at all at that price. And I think that midweek defeat to Arsenal is quite instructive in a way, because we only really had the Real Madrid win for Atletico Madrid as sort of our baseline for how they can perform against big sides. They beat Real Madrid 5-2. But I think this shows that actually, you know what, there's still some uncertainty for me anyway about what sort of an Atletico Madrid team this is. How good are they? I personally think they're clearly, weaker than the top 2 in Spain over the course of a season. That should play out. So I got my reservations about them. And Betis, been very difficult to beat. They've lost just 1 in 12 in all competitions. And that was back, I think, last day in August in La Liga they lost. So they've been unbeaten for some time now, and they've done pretty well in Europe as well. They've won 1 and drawn 2 so far in the Europa League, a couple of draws away from home. So very difficult to beat. They're +220 to win it. I wouldn't take that because the draw rate on Betis games is pretty high, but I'd look for a way to support them maybe on the handicap or tie no bet, something like that, because as I say, I think Atleti at the moment are not playing consistently well enough to justify a price of 115 away from home.
Or, Steve, is Simeone just going to dig one of those 1-0 games out that he sort of did against Osasuna in La Liga last weekend? What do you think?
Do you know what? There's something really weird about this game. The head-to-head, right? Last season, Real Betis won this match 1-0. It was a Jose Maria Jimenez own goal in the 4th minute. And look what date it was played. It was played on the 27th of October. Exactly the same date. Now, that's a bit weird, isn't it? Will it be Groundhog Day? That's the question. I still can't get a proper read on Atletico Madrid. I think they're a strange team. I thought they played pretty well against Arsenal until they fell behind, but then they collapsed entirely. They've had some good results. The Real Madrid performance especially was excellent, but they're not reliable, are they? I totally agree with James. You can't really trust them in this sort of spot, even as a plus money team. Real Betis can go under the radar, and I think they're going to make it really difficult for Atletico Madrid to beat them. I wonder what price that 1-0 to Real Betis is again.
Jimenez only just back in the starting line. It looks a bit rusty against Arsenal. Anyway, could be
Imagine
an
that
interesting
happened
one.
again. Own goal.
Betis Atleti. It's 4 p.m. On Monday night. The boys will be previewing it in full, of course, on the live show on Monday. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We keep everyone updated via our X feeds. That's a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. Follow us at Because We Win. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get your comments in. Some really good feedback over the course of last week. We'll be back next week. Lots of content on the channel from all of us. For now, though, it's goodbye.